So with Pence, Christie, and North Dakota Governor Doug Berman all entering the race this week, what do voters need to know? We're bringing in Mychael Schnell, staff writer for The Hill right now. Mychael, it's always good to see you. And first question for you, how many candidates is too many? Some critics saying that it could lead to a Trump victory.
Natasha, that's a good question, and the answer to that question depends on who you ask, right? Conventional wisdom would say that former President Trump is pretty happy and would be happy with this increasing number of non-Trump candidates, anti-Trump candidates entering the political field. And let that be Nikki Haley, Ron DeSantis, Mike Pence, Christie, those two last ones who are expected to announce this week, because those candidates are going to be fighting for those Republican voters who are not squarely behind President Trump, as President Trump locks up his supporters. So those non-Trump voters will be fracturing among those other candidates. But then when you have these number of more candidates jump in, remember, the number that goes up, the smaller size of that GOP Republican primary voter pool they're going to get. So the answer to that question depends on who you ask, but it looks like nobody cares about what the answer is because more and more candidates are jumping in the field this week, as we're seeing today.
Yeah, certainly. And as we mentioned earlier, according to NewsNation's own Decision Desk headquarters poll, voters saying they would rather have a third-party candidate than either Trump or Biden. Is that surprising? And does a candidate like Cornel West have a shot?
Well, I think it depends on who that candidate is, right? You're right. We did see Cornel West announce this week that he's running as a third-party candidate. We'll have to see how voters see his campaign, what appetite they have for his policy perspectives. But look, third-party candidates are oftentimes, a scare for those major party candidates because they're going to take away a block of the voters who are going to maybe, someone who doesn't love Trump or someone who doesn't love President Biden may break for that third-party voter, but that could have been a reliable voter for one of those major party candidates back in 2020. So oftentimes those third-party candidates could be spoilers from one of the major party candidates. I think we'll first have to see who throws their hat in the ring as a third-party candidate, what type of candidate they will run as, what policy perspectives they'll put in the field. But look, if they're on the ticket and if they're on the trail, voters will be listening.
We've seen Governor DeSantis, meanwhile, start to go after former President Trump a little bit more lately. And now Trump, or rather now saying that Trump should have fired Fauci during the pandemic. Do you think that this will be the first of many pandemic arguments? Is this where the heart of the GOP base is right now?
Absolutely, because we saw the pandemic sort of become one of those hot-button issues in 2020, in 2021, whether it was school shutdowns, whether it was mask restrictions, or that sort of really gave in to these clashes that we saw at things like school board meetings. So I definitely think we'll see the pandemic be fodder for more attacks during the 2020 presidential campaign. But also just noting right there, Ron DeSantis going against President Biden, these candidates are going to try to find anything, any framework, any foundation to draw a contrast with one another on the campaign trail to sort of try to show a difference between them and the front runner, if the front runner being Trump, and to try to pick off and gain some Republican supporters. So I do think that the pandemic will continue to be a topic spoken about, but also just anything that these candidates are going to try to draw a contrast with one another as they try to court voters.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.